Okay, we are House Education on April 11th, 2025. This morning, we're going to hear a number of amendments to H 454. So we're going to begin with one from co-sponsored by Representative Tooth and Representative Houghton. Representative Tooth is here to present. I will just say that you need only present on the portions that affect the part of H 454 that this committee passed out. And take it away.
All right. Thank you, Chair Conlon, and House Ed Committee. For the record, Representative Casey Tooth, I represent St. Albans Town, and for those of you that don't know me, welcome. Thanks for having me. So we have an amendment offered on 454. There are 5 instances of amendment. I think only 4 of those instances will affect this committee. And that includes the 5th section, which is their effective date. So I'm going off the calendar that's where I'm kind of reading from. So if you need me to slow down, I will tell you where we're at. First instance of amendment will be adding 4 members to our district boundary committee. Those 4 members are non-voting legislators. And those are going to be 2 members from the House that are appointed. 2 members from the House that are appointed by the Speaker, and those members cannot be of the same political party or the same school district. And then 2 members of the Senate with the same, not from the same party or the same school district, and they'll be appointed by the Committee on Committees. The second instance of amendment is just changing the number 5 to the number 9. And then we go to the third instance of amendment, which is adding the new district voting board task force. So I had some issues with the boundaries, drawing districts. I made my points pretty clear, I think, this entire session, and it helps me. This kind of helps ease me because it puts us in more of a driver's seat of building the governance and the wards within those districts. That's kind of my intent with this right here. So basically, it's going to create a school district voting board task force, report and maps, and it's going to be made up of the Secretary of State or designee, 3 members who shall be appointed by the Vermont Municipal Clerk Treasurer Association, 2 members appointed by the Vermont School Boards Association, and the Director of Vermont Center for Geographic Information. And they're going to be working in consultation with the Boundary Committee on or before October 15th. They're going to consult with the School District Boundary Subcommittee, and they're going to be working on finding the optimal number of school boards per school board members per school board, boundaries and voting wards within each one. So they're just going to be looking at more of that localized governance on top of what the subcommittee is going to be working on for building the districts. And in the, where am I at now? The 4th instance of amendment is that's it, because that's the Ways and Means amendment. So that's what I was going to change. So doing those things, it's going to help ease some of my concerns with the bill, and some of our members with that too. So that's kind of the intent for this.
Great. Thank you very much. And thanks for the presentation. I just want to be clear. So what you're proposing is making one study committee bigger and another study committee on top of that.
Correct.
I just want to be on the record.
On the record. Yes. And I do appreciate, because I know that we've had this conversation a lot, and I appreciate the willingness to like consider this and look at this, and hopefully we can get it out of here. And this was really important for me.
Would you like to just talk a little bit about why, I get the ward task force, makes a lot of sense. Why adding legislative members to the subcommittee? Behind that.
Yeah, I think adding those legislative members will help us. One of the points I was trying to make this session was having, elected members who are beholden to their constituents on this, even though they're non-voting members. I like the idea of putting members on there from this body that will actually have maybe a little more skin in the game, or we're taking it like we have legislative bodies that can help with the process, and they can actually be better liaisons within the so it's not just like a subcommittee out there doing their work. They actually have better ties to our our party, so they have two, they're not the same
Phoenix Scout
party.
body, right?
Our body, not our party, right?
Our body, did I say party? Within our body.
I think you meant this party.
So like if, say one of us is on there, they could keep our education for. I think that's part for me.
Any other questions? Representative Brady?
It looks like the school district voting ward task force has a limit of 10 meetings. Do you have any concerns about the possibility of their work requiring more than 10 meetings considering the complexity of it?
Not really. If it does become a concern, I'm sure they can come to us with those concerns, like, hey, we're doing really good work, but we might need more time.
And then just a clarifying question, so is the assumption that the funding for all of that group's work for DMs, the technical expertise, is just out of the existing Secretary of State's budget?
I am doing a walkover to folks after this,
Okay.
so we'll talk with them about where that money comes from. That's, yeah, it is all pretty young.
Other questions? I had Annie check, about whether Casey could vote.
Oh,
straw poll on his own amendment. Thumbs up.
Oh,
Yeah. So we probably should make it check. Go back there. Yeah.
and I gotta think if I want to vote yes or no.
All right, well, thanks very much. Let's just go right into it. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. And we are looking at 10-01.
Thank you so
Good job,
much.
Casey.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thanks for the work.
Next time. That's you.
Okay, everybody good to just jump right in on the next one?
Sure.
Okay, Representative Greer, if you'd have a seat up front there. We will not make you share your screen.
Thank you. You would be surprised how difficult that was at the last minute.
We were watching.
Oh, God. That was, thank you.
All right. Let us, continue on. Yes, go ahead and present. Thank you, and introduce yourself, of course.
Okay, yeah, Representative Little Greer, Bennington. Just would like to start by thanking you guys for taking this up. I know this was last minute, but I have many constituents that are concerned about some of the elements of this bill where we may be left out potentially. So the first part is adding to subdivision J 1A8, following all grade levels from kindergarten through grade 12 by adding, including use of a supervisory union structure where necessary to maintain existing tuition structures. As we're talking about this component of scale and of consolidation, changing district boundaries, I think it's important that we don't merge districts that have two very different systems together. And I'll just speak particularly from North Bennington's perspective that we, for many decades, fought to have our own district and tried very hard to preserve that elementary school choice structure that we had since really the 1870s. And so we're just worried about some of the language, not really centering around small and medium-sized independent schools that semi-worries us. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention, which I'm sure you all have heard plenty about. But, one thing that I've heard from others in the previous committee, but also just in general, is that, we don't view this as a burden to our system. We view it as opportunity. We view this as being able to have the choice in our district and be able to support our local elementary school. So we just want to be able to have that somehow in a way baked into it. And then the second part, I'll try and be as short as I can. Would create a new section 27A around tuition payment. And so essentially I'll sum it up very briefly. The first part, goodness, there we go. That subsection A gets to the point that because of unique tuition structures around the state and the longstanding history between different government structures, that we hope that the subcommittee would take under consideration that having two different operating entities merging together to be one would just be a significant challenge with our little hole in a larger donut in our area. Subsection B1 speaks to the fact that the village of North Bennington, we do approve on town meeting our budget, and we have a tuition system, and we do all the other aspects that we need to be in compliance in our district, and so we take that very seriously. And then subsection B2, really, that's the fact that we do provide a positive, warm, creative learning environment through the village school, and we want to be able to preserve that. And, you know, we're very unique in that we're one of only 2 elementary school choice districts in the state, and we've run into roadblocks about this before because it's such a unique facet of the whole system that we have that we tend to not be necessarily included in all the conversations. We just wanted to have one last opportunity because we do see a lot of opportunity in this bill for improvement, but we just wanted to get this one final push to just, you know, hear our concerns and just see what you all can come to. But thank you for allowing me to speak on this. And I'm happy to.
Thank you. I just would, point out to you and remind the committee that when we came up with, the language for the district boundary subcommittee, that we did charge it with taking into account historic attendance patterns and to the extent practical, consider historic patterns in geographic areas that do not operate public schools at all grade levels from kindergarten through grade 12. So I just am pointing out and reminding the committee that we are not silent on at all on non-operating districts and being part of the conversation. Other questions? Go ahead. Go ahead, Janet.
Well, I was just say, and to add to that, you know, when we looked at sort of adding criteria to which schools in Vermont can receive public tuition, you know, we were mindful in setting that 51% threshold of schools that are serving a public mission. And, you know, that goes along with what the chair just mentioned around historic attendance patterns. Yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
I just have a clarifying question. I think, did you say that, you know, when we talk about tuitioning and choice and like in the case of our historic academies, you know, decades of experience, but specifically, I think you're talking about the North Bennington School. That was established in 2013.
Yes,
So it's
but we had been doing things like that prior. We were a public school in a sense.
But in
we-
terms of being
I'm
an
sorry, you're
independent
putting quote
school.
marks.
Well,
It was.
so yes,
It
it
was.
was a public school,
So it was
but we were,
established in 2013. So it
I guess-
hasn't been tuitioning.
yes.
for decades.
So no, it's not been for decades, but it's been a school for hundreds of years. Thank you for clarifying that,
Right.
because we were a separate district since the 1870s. We did become an independent school in 2013. We did that prior even to Act 46 really coming into play. And there were of course, other legislation around that at the time, but I think in a way saw the tide coming and we want to be proactive in saving our community school. And so, yeah,
Elementary tuitioning began in 2013.
yes, we were a full K through 12 back up until the 1960s. Yes.
Sorry, can I just get some context on this? I'm not totally sure I understand. So in North Bennington, they have elementary schools, but this bill is asking to also send tuition money to private schools in addition to.
No. So, it is a somewhat unique situation in 2012, North Bennington School District voted to close their elementary school and turn it into a private school. So therefore, there was no public school for people in the North
Okay.
Bennington School District, which is, I think, it's in North Bennington, in the north of Bennington.
Yeah,
So that basically opened up, they became a non-operating district. So that opened up choice. So folks who live there don't actually have to send their kids to North Bennington. They can send them to any public school or approved independent school.
right. Okay. And why did North Bennington decide to go from public to private?
Because of consolidation efforts, and we were concerned that we were going to lose the school entirely.
Okay, but students do have an option for a public elementary school in North Bennington. Yeah.
I mean, they wanted to. Any other questions? Yeah.
I guess I would just say that, I continue to have concerns about sending, public tax dollars to private institutions, and I don't know sort of what the rules or the culture of the North Bennington School are. But, there are reasons that we want to have, standards of acceptance, standards of, being able to track our dollars and, honestly, I think that choice needs to be taken really carefully because not all kids have choice. And so I want to really shore up our public schools to receive public money. I think that even when we say that kids have choice, having the ability to know how to shop for schools, to have transportation to those schools is kind of a privileged thing to do. So I'm really concerned about sort of chipping away at all about reopening up our public money for private institutions.
And I also just, as a clarifying comment, to just say that, this does not speak specifically to North Bennington School. This line.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
It just comes from.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll just say, committee, I'm frankly very satisfied with the work and the language that we have in here that takes into account historic enrollment patterns and especially in non-operating districts. I think this sort of is a hard carve out for independent schools that is unnecessary, given the sort of broad assignment of the district line drawing committee. I think a lot of these questions will focus more as we go to have larger districts that then we need to sort of describe in charters in sort of, I would say, education transformation part 2. All right, so we will do a straw poll. I do not believe you need to go to appropriations on this effort. There's no appropriations. All right, so those in favor of the amendment, raise your hands.
Saying you find it favorable or any other?
Well, we just did a straw poll, so I was just going with
Okay. The
those in
amendment on
favor.
space.
Yeah,
Got
so and I will present it in sort of whatever order it needs to be presented.
it. Okay.
All right, so those who support the amendment. And let's write the number down so I don't forget because I'm not very fast. And those opposing the amendment. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Try to make sure I'm counting correctly. All right, so that is.
We're missing 2, so it should be 9.
3, 2, and that does add up to 11.
11.
I think I have a math teacher.
Yeah, it's
9, 10,
not-
11.
Was that?
That's not how you say it on the floor though, right?
No,
Yeah, we will have.
found it unfavorable. 6,
You
3.
Okay.
Thank you.
And team, we can all head to the floor.